on, Foxy. It's your birthday. Not for real, just for play. This is Cree Summer, and Moana Nui will be right back.
Good evening and Happy New Year. Welcome to our January edition of Moana Nui After Dark presents Geek Speak On Sports. We are half a crew tonight. We have members who are under the weather and otherwise engaged in activities they could not get out of to join us this evening. But I am joined by my homie, my boy, Atlanta born and raised. He will never die. Always live hard for his sports teams in this city. And I must say, sir, virtual hug, because I'm pretty sure you needed one after Sunday.
Man, yes, I did. It was the only thing that kind of sustains me right now is I was right in saying that Kirk Cousins would not play the entire season and that Penix would get his shot. That's the one thing that sustains me is I'm like, oh man, 36-year-old coming back from an Achilles heel injury, and y'all gave him the sweetest deal any quarterback could ever want. And then you wonder why we ended up 8-9.
All I know is watching the highlights, or at least watching the updates from that game while I was watching my backups beat up the New York Giants, was whether y'all defense is going to show up to the game or not.
Man,
for the casual fan who's not a fan of either team, it was an awesome game. But I know for you and those diehard true Falcon fans, y'all was just like, what the hell? I'm pretty sure the phrase is "here we go again" crept into your mind several times.
Yes, they did. And what gets me is I'm sorry, I got to go off on a little bit of a rant right now.
Get it out early.
Happy New Year, everybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday break. I hope everybody had a wonderful New Year. But I'm trying to say this in the nicest way so nobody gets sued. Atlanta sports talk radio hosts can't be trusted to fill water bottles because those morons were all in on Kirk Cousins being the new savior of Atlanta and the Falcons' greatest hope at the beginning of the season. And anytime fans would call in questioning why we're signing somebody his age with his injury to that spot, it was always, well, you got to trust the process, you got to believe, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And as we got closer and closer to the end of the season, you start to notice all those talking heads' opinions changed. They started out all in with Cousins, and by the end of the season, they were all like, he shouldn't be here, he's a mistake. And I'm like, but you were the morons who swore up and down he was going to take us to the promised land. Now, I am always cautiously optimistic about my team. Mm-hmm. And I am one of those people that I said it in the beginning. Kirk Cousins hasn't proven anything. He's been in the league 13 years and won one playoff game. But if ownership of my team believes in him, I'm going to give him a shot. I didn't have... Part of me wanted to go deeper into the playoffs just for the simple fact that the Super Bowl is in New Orleans, and I would have loved to have that been our first Super Bowl to win in their house. A part of me was always kind of like, I don't know. And again, Kirk Cousins proved that he is Kirk Cousins. What was it that you said in one of our conversations? Kirk Cousins will always be pretty decent when he's playing at 1 o'clock in the sunshine and something, but as soon as it gets dark and something, I forget the exact quote, but
yeah, but basically 1 p.m. on Sundays, he's a god. He can't do no wrong.
Yeah.
Prime time, any other day of the week.
Yeah.
Hang it up.
Yeah. I mean, we were 6-3 at one point.
4-0
in the division.
And
then it all collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
We gave up 48 to the Panthers. And don't get me wrong, the Panthers aren't garbage, but they're not good either. And taking
what's
this
the draft order?
Hmm?
I'm trying to remember where they're drafting. Because the Panthers, I do believe, picking the top 10.
Yeah, because they're finished. I think they finished with 5 wins, if I'm not mistaken.
I do believe they're picking the top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good. It's definitely not good.
And now, because of all that money that we gave Kirk Cousins, we're screwed for a couple of years because our offense is solid. But who are we going to get on defense with? We might have maybe $15 million in cap space. I forget what the exact number is, but I want to say it's somewhere near $15 million. Who are we going to get? Unless we draft somebody out of college who's a phenom. They went and spent all that money on Judon, thinking he was going to be the next coming of John Abraham.
Didn't y'all trade Judon in the middle of the season?
No, we still got him.
Okay. The Panthers are picking 8th right now,
which was our spot last year. The Falcons have picked 8th like the last 3 or 4 years in a row. And I think this year we're estimated, I think we're going to be either 14th or 15th in the draft.
Let me double check that. You are picking 15th.
Yeah.
So, funny thing, this is the first draft in like 30 some odd years in which every team has their own first round pick intact.
Oh, wow.
Yes. The first time in 30 plus years that every franchise has its own first round pick.
Wow. That is
crazy.
I don't know if that's impressive or crazy, or I wonder what is it about this particular, like, because everybody is constantly trading to move up, move down, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But
now, granted, that will happen, but basically,
right
no one has multiple picks in the first round this year.
Right.
You know, that's basically what they were getting at. This is like the first time in 30 years that no one has multiple picks, and like literally everybody has their own default first round pick. And the way contracts are structured now, the way player movement is happening over the last several years, it is kind of GMs, I would say, are probably being more cautious because, again, your first round pick, you're trading your first round pick because you know that one, whatever position you were going to draft, you're set at.
Yeah.
And you just want to generate more draft capital somewhere else. So you're trading back. Right. That was the hope of all Patriot fans, that they would end up with the number 1 pick because they have their quarterback of the future in Drake May.
Yeah.
And them being in the number 1 slot, they would pretty much be like, hey, open for business. Who wants this number 1 pick? Like, we are more than happy to move down somewhere and pick up 3-4 picks in, rather in this draft or next year's draft.
Yeah.
Because typically when you trade a top 10 first round pick, you're not only getting that team's first round pick in a swap for that current year, you're also getting their first round pick for the next year as well. That's typically how it happens. It is rare that you give up a first round pick to acquire a player anymore because that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. I think the last time a player was traded for a team's first round pick was probably in the 90s. I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened this millennia yet. Swapping of draft rights may happen still if two teams draft wide receivers and they're like, hey, we want that wide receiver, so we'll draft your wide receiver and we'll just swap. That stuff like that still happens. But yeah. Back to what you were saying. Look, and I told you this in the summer, after the news broke that you all were signing Kirk Cousins, that I am not against 31 of 32 teams having hope of winning the Super Bowl every offseason. The one exception is whoever has Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback. And, you know, once upon a time, we used to do a podcast that was solely football oriented.
Yep.
And the guys in there would give me a hard time about how much I despise Kirk Cousins. Now, again, Kirk Cousins, the human being, the man outside of football, may very well be a decent, cool dude, down to earth, whatever nice things, platitude you want to give him. He may be all those things.
Right.
Kirk Cousins, the quarterback, is the personification of overrated average. Like he is literally an average quarterback who puts up godly numbers year in and year out when he's fully healthy. And when I mean fully healthy,
look at the teams he puts those numbers up against, because here are our first few wins of the season. Let's see. The first win was, wait, let me scroll all the way back up. That's regular season. So, okay, sorry.
Well,
first win was.
I can tell you this off the top of my head because this I do know about him this season. His two best games, as far as yardage, completion, and maybe touchdowns, were both against the Buccaneers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then outside of those two games, he was strongly average.
Oh, absolutely.
But
because
if his whole season was playing the Buccaneers from week 1 to week 18, y'all be undefeated the first round bye in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, because looking at those first couple of games, we barely beat the Eagles. Barely.
I'm still mad about that.
That's why when I saw it, I was like, ooh, I don't. But again, barely. 22-21.
And y'all know Saquon should have caught that ball.
Our next win, the Saints. We had to win that game. Then Tampa Bay. Then the Panthers. Tampa Bay again. Mm-hmm. We beat the Cowboys. You can say what you want to about that game. And then loss.
No one could see 4 in a row coming though.
Yeah, so it's just the games that we won decisively are against average teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't beat average teams decisively and go to the Super Bowl, unfortunately.
Mm-mm.
But oh man.
And look, it's not like he's played with, you know, lackluster talent around him. He had
a great receiving core in Minnesota for a few years.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He had Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
At one point or another in the 6 years he played in Minnesota. In Washington, now granted, they weren't on the receivers he had in Washington weren't on that level, but they weren't slouches either.
Right.
There were cats that pretty much kept me up at night when he was in DC, only because the Eagles' corners at the time were trash.
It was a decent enough team that on any given Sunday they could go out and get a win.
Right. But that's what you expect out of purely average teams in the NFL. Right. You don't know. Like, yes, there literally is a chance they could win this game. Yep. And equally as so, there's a legitimate chance that they could lose this game.
Yep.
So you don't have pure confidence going in every week with Kurt as your quarterback that we're definitely going to win this game.
No.
Like, I look at the Eagles schedule every year and I can pretty much point out, we're going to win this one. We're going to win this one. Better not lose this one. We're going to win this one. We might lose this one. We might lose this one. And I can be fairly honest about that. But if Kurt was my quarterback, I'd be like, nope, maybe, nope, maybe, nope, maybe.
There were a couple of games in my heart. I was like, okay, there were about 5 games that I was like, we definitely should win these 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the schedule,
Coin flip.
And man, on the plus side, he's no longer the starting quarterback. Hopefully he will be gone this offseason. Hopefully they will finally focus on drafting some powerhouse for the defense. Hopefully they will fire Rich McKay.
That's not going to happen.
It's funny.
Let's swing back to the NFL later. But definitely wanted you to get all that out your system before we got into things. Because I was like, let's get this out the way early. Have some fun later.
One more thing. Fire Rich McKay.
Oh, my God.
I'm done.
Are you sure?
I'm good.
All right. Open up. Fun thing I saw.
Ooh,
is this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already know where this is going.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up. Okay. So, yeah. Hitting below the belt. And wait for it. Thank you for coming out. God bless and good night.
Down goes Frazier.
Oh man, that I was like, yo, because my thing is, you're in a full contact sport like that. You know what rabbit punches are. You know what kidney punches are. You know you're not supposed to do that.
Yep.
Karma came quick.
Again, what is it? Like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Very, very much so. Very, very much so. I want to open up talking about women's college basketball. As we are running this show right now, there are a couple of games going on in women's college basketball. A big one happening right now is number 4 ranked USC is playing number 8 ranked Maryland. The ladies of Georgia Tech are currently still undefeated and ranked 13th in the country. If you're not watching women's college basketball, there's something wrong with you. Like, you're missing out. I know the complaints on the men's side as far as college basketball is all these NIL deals, kids coming in, one and done, bouncing. There's no one to root for it. Everything you're complaining about in men's college basketball that's not there, flip a station, watch women's college basketball. Don Staley still has the ladies at South Carolina ranked number 2. They only have one loss. UCLA is the number 1 ranked team in the country right now. They're still undefeated. USC, aforementioned, as mentioned, currently playing right now against University of Maryland. USC only has one loss. And if you missed the game that they played against UConn, I believe it was the day after Christmas, December 26th. No, that Saturday, December 28th. It was the week of Christmas, a Saturday night game. It was USC at UConn. I'm going to say that again. Lady Trojans were at the Connecticut Huskies and Paige Beckers. And look, I wish Paige Beckers the best of health. She has pretty much missed 2 years of play due to knee injuries. She's a senior. She's definitely going to the W when her season ends, whenever that ends in March. But you talk about a good duel of a game between 2 of the top players in the country. And I want to remind everybody about this. Juju Watkins is a sophomore.
I still can't get over that some days. Sometimes I'm still like, wait, really?
Yes.
Sophomore?
Sophomore. Yeah. And you still have to put her up there with the top players in the country.
Yeah.
But that game they played against UConn was easily one of the best basketball games I have seen in some time on the collegiate level. And look, like I said, you want good, solid, foundational basketball. player movement, actual plays, pick and roll, mid-range jump shots, dribble pop, dribble shoot. None of this camping out behind the 3-point line, drive and kick out to the 3-point line, slacking. Watch a women's college game. Yeah. Do yourself a favor, watch a women's college game. And look, I'm not disparaging the men in college basketball, but if you're watching the big programs, you're sorely going to be disappointed. It is, for me personally, I'm finding it hard to root for the major programs at any level whatsoever. And being from DC, I love rooting for the Maryland Terps. I love rooting for the Georgetown Hoyas and all the other local teams out of the DC metro area. But it is hard to root for the men's teams. It really is. But the women's teams, not so much.
You may not disparage the men's programs, but I will. They are not playing basketball anymore. It's all about ISO. It's all about my highlight reel. It's all about how can I play better? How can I put out better highlights to get a better NIL deal? And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that the NIL deals are going through. It's about damn time that these players were getting paid, because these universities and these TV networks have been making billions of dollars off of these kids and giving them scraps. So I am happy the NIL is coming through and they're getting paid, but the men no longer play solid fundamental basketball. Again, it's ISO and highlight reel, and I need a better NIL deal. The women play, like you said, solid fundamental basketball. If you want to watch real basketball, you watch the women, and that's even true on the professional level.
Oh gosh, let's not get started there.
I'm just saying but the fundamentals carry over.
True. Well, I'll say this about the NBA. Because of the massive influx of foreign-born players who legitimately are stars in the NBA. Like, I'm not going to take that away from them. They're like, we talked about this last year. If you were to rank the top 10 players in the NBA right now, 5 of them would be foreign-born players from a European country, right? No, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
But remember when that wasn't the case?
I know, but this is what the league wanted.
Yep.
To draw international eyes, because both basketball is a global game. This was the vision of former Commissioner David Stern, carried on by Adam Silver, the current commissioner.
Yep.
And the influx of stars from overseas, coupled with international play, meaning us sending NBA players to international competition, has morphed the game from what we knew to what it is today. Now, a lot of people want to blame it on the heyday of the Golden State Warriors, where they had Steph and Clay and Kevin Durant for 2 years, where they were just bombing away from three.
Yeah.
But their offense was not predicated on having all 5 players camp behind the 3-point line, dribble drive, kick out to the open man behind the 3-point line and shoot a 3. That was not their offense. Their offense was a fusion of some Euro style coupled with the triangle offense that Steve Kerr is familiar with from when he ran in Chicago with some dude named Michael Jordan. Right? So it is a fusion of those two styles. They still run forms of the triangle offense, even to this day. The problem is because Steph Curry basically has the God hand, if you will, from behind the arc. Yeah. That everybody's like, well, we need 3-point shooters. So if you can't shoot the 3, then we can't pay you. Okay, but now everybody's sacrificing the mid-range. Yeah. That area between the paint and the 3-point line.
And I'll go a little bit further and say they're not only sacrificing the mid-range, they're sacrificing the low post.
What low post? So I want you to think about what you saw as far as Olympic basketball and this past Olympics and games, hell, even games USA played. USA struggled on defense against everybody they played. they didn't really shut down anybody. And granted, understand that international competition, and no one's going to ever convince me otherwise, international competition in basketball specifically is geared in such a way to literally give every other country an advantage over USA, whether it's men or women. Now, yes. So when you watch FIBA basketball, whether it's the World Championships or the Olympics, understand the fundamental differences between international play and NBA play, right? There are 5 fouls instead of 6. The trapezoidal paint is still there. It's still a trapezoid. It's not a rectangle. The way that you're allowed to play defense, there's a lot of physicality over there. Over here in the NBA, if you breathe on a player wrong, it's a foul. You can literally headlock somebody and not get called for a foul. If you've ever watched a EuroLeague game, I will highly recommend watching some EuroLeague basketball, because that is the perfect adaptation of what they're doing for international play, which is why a lot of those countries adapt quicker, because they're already playing the style of international basketball under FIBA rules in their respective leagues across Europe and Asia.
Good point.
This is why, and people always like, well, why does USA struggle? We got the best players in the world. Collectively, yes, we can put together a 12-man roster of the best American players in the NBA. But the problem is, you're trying to convince 12 guys to commit at a minimum of 3 to 4 years to be available for at least 2 Worlds and possibly 1 Olympics to make sure USA always qualifies for these big international competitions, right? The international players have been playing together since they were like 17 years old, sometimes younger, right? So there's always that continuity of, well, when they leave here and go back to their club teams, people like Nikola Jokic, when he goes back to Serbia, he fits right in because he knows where to get those players the ball. Granted, 6 of those other players on Serbia's team play in the NBA. They still have continuity with each other when they go back home and get ready for international competition.
This is true.
So now Canada, because Canada is pretty much the only other country besides USA that can field an entire roster of nothing but NBA players, is finding themselves in a situation where USA basketball was, what was that squad that had Tim Duncan and Allen Iverson on it? LeBron and Carmelo's rookie year, where they went in and they finished with the bronze. You know what I'm saying? The year, like 2 years prior, they finished 6th in the World Cup where Argentina won. Yeah. You know, Canada's finding itself in that realm right now because they're literally just fielding their team with all the NBA players who are Canadian born.
Right.
But they don't play with each other that much in the offseason. So when you take 12 random guys from the NBA for the American team and throw them together, you're talking about, well, when are they going to put this team together? How long do they have to practice? They haven't been playing together that much. They usually play against each other. It is almost uncommon now to have more than 2 people from the same team. When they run summer league, they're all running their own individual summer league to stay in shape. So very rarely do they cross paths. And when they do, they're not on the same team. It's not like KD is going out to LeBron's summer league and they're on the same team. That's not happening.
So, James, are you insinuating indirectly or accidentally that the Dream Team was a fluke?
The Dream Team was not a fluke.
The reason I say that is based on everything you've said so far. The Dream Team does not fit any of that because it was just 12 random guys. No, they were random now because if remembering who was all on the Dream Team,
I can tell you off the top of my head.
It's not like you had 3 or 4 people from the same team playing on the Dream Team. So you had a couple of teammates.
You had 2 pairs. You had 2 sets of teammates.
Right.
Scotty and Michael.
Right.
Carl and John Stockton. Carl Malone and John Stockton.
Right.
Right.
Everybody else was a couple of random guys. Now,
But
obviously,
they were
all
also
Hall
the
of
best of their
Famers.
positions.
They're all Hall of Famers, but
Mhm.
still 12 kind of random guys. 12 random. I guess it's only fair to say 12 random Hall of Famers.
I mean,
and it just.
but also understand the era of basketball. In the early 90s, when Dream Team was put together,
Defense
USA basketball was, and this is the issue that we had up until that point, because we were sending college kids over to play in the Olympics because of amateurism. Our pros weren't allowed to go, but other countries were sending their pro players.
Whoa, see, I never knew that the pros weren't allowed. I thought they just didn't get picked.
NBA players were not allowed to compete in international ball.
That I did not know.
FIBA banned NBA players, which is why we sent college kids.
Okay.
And more times than not, these were the college kids who were coming into the draft. So when you looked at Dream Team, Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, and David Robinson already had gold medals before, or medaled before in Olympic basketball play, because they made an Olympic basketball team the year they were drafted because they played on the squad.
Right.
Or at least Jordan and Robinson did. Ewing was a year before Jordan, so he didn't play. That was not an Olympic year. But that's the type of thing I'm talking about, right? Where for a long time, our pros weren't allowed to play. And we had college kids for decades beating up grown men.
Yeah.
When I say grown men, you're talking about these college kids are literally no older than 21.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 19 to 21-year-olds going over there and beating guys 10 plus years older than them.
Back when college basketball played with solid fundamentals.
But again, what that ended up doing was opening the door, elevating the competition, because we knew other countries were going to get better.
Yeah.
Where we in America need to get used to is what we saw this past summer may be the last time that happens for a while. Because again, the style of basketball has changed.
Yeah.
And that was a problem after Dream Team and even the second team we sent over, right? Because everybody between the first two teams we sent of pro players up until that Redeem team with Kobe, LeBron, Chris Paul and them, when they went over to, it wasn't London. Oh, where was it? But it's the one where basically Kobe runs through Paul Gasol and knocks him on the ground, whatever year that was, right? That was the last time that we literally dominated.
That was 2008.
Okay.
And that was
so
Beijing. Yeah, that was Beijing.
Beijing, thank you. So every team from between Atlanta and Beijing, those teams in the middle struggled. Go back and watch the tape. Yeah, they won mostly, except for that 04 team. But they all struggled.
Yeah.
Because margin of victory was 10 points as opposed to 20 or 40 for the other three squads I just mentioned. You know what I'm saying? And even after the 08 team, there's still some struggling of dealing with the international rules because goaltending is allowed. And that doesn't click in their heads that they can snatch a ball off the rim if it hits it.
Yeah.
Like over here in America, the ball hits the rim. I can't touch it.
Right. And to me, that's how it should be.
So that adaptation, that transition from NBA ball to international FIBA rules is a problem. And of course, NBA is never going to adopt FIBA rules, but it's the reason we struggle going over there now.
I think if the product American basketball produces continues to decline, I could see some of those international rules being adopted. Not quickly and not a lot at once, but like maybe one or two every couple of years to just kind of slowly adjust.
Well, speaking of adjustments, the NBA All-Star Game is getting an adjustment. I don't know if you saw this, but while I talk about it, go ahead and look it up, and because I want to see the disgust in your face. The NBA All-Star Game is not going to be an actual All-Star game. It's going to be an All-Star tournament. There will be 4 teams of 8 players. 3 of the teams are going to have All-Stars. The 4th team is going to be a group of rising stars.
Ooh.
8 players per team, randomly paired up. The winners of those 2 games play the All-Star game.
Actually, I kind of like that. For me, and again, the way you love football is how I love basketball. Okay. And basketball, in my opinion, has gotten very, very stagnant the last 10, 15 years. All-star games are not fun anymore. It's basically, all right.
Well, that's true for every sport. All-star games are just not fun, period. The NFL did find a fix, but go ahead.
We'll see who can shoot the most threes. Nobody plays. And again, don't get me wrong. The All-Star game has never been about playing hard defense. You still play decent defense to not let things get out of hand. But, there were no hard fouls, no flagrants. And lately, it's just kind of who can shoot the most threes. Because the scores, in my opinion, have gotten out of hand. So I actually welcome this change to the All-Star game.
Well, now, last year's All-Star game, I think, got close to 400 points between the 2 teams combined.
Right. What the hell, man? Now, whether or not this change to the All-Star game is going to be good, will it continue for a number of years? I don't know. But I like the fact that they're willing to try something different. And again, it may fail horribly, but I respect them for at least trying something different. We'll see how it plays out. So again, I actually kind of like that they're going to do something different. I like it.
Well, to go on with the NBA still, while we're still on that note, what is it? Front Office Sports is reporting that when Amazon Prime starts broadcasting NBA games next season, that their studio team will be Taylor Rooks, Blake Griffin, and Dirk Nowitzki.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake. It is flat out a mistake.
What is a mistake?
To me, one of the things that made Charles, Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie
you don't know. They're staying together. And they're coming to ESPN.
Oh. So why would I watch?
Because remember, Amazon Prime, so the contract that TNT lost that they weren't going to bid on, stupidly, I don't know why they didn't bid on it, end up going to Amazon Prime. Right? So your broadcast networks next year for NBA games will still be ESPN, NBC now, and Amazon Prime will be your 3 networks broadcasting NBA games next season. All right. I'm pretty sure NBC will throw something together with the people they got, because a lot of the folks they have working on Sunday Night Football cover multiple sports.
Right. So
they're good there. But the concern was, again, as you said, mentioning Kenny, Charles, Shaq, and Ernie Johnson, was that they were going to get broken up.
Yeah.
But Commissioner Adam Silver stepped in, talked to Turner Sports, tried to find some way to keep those 4 together, to keep that show together, because it basically has grown into an institution that you turn in. Hell, there are a lot of times that I would not watch an NBA game on Wednesday nights or Tuesday nights whenever they were on TNT, outside of the playoffs, but like regular season, I would specifically turn to TNT just to watch the post-game show of those 4.
Yeah, those guys are great together. And to me, one of the things that makes them so great together is 3 of them have played together for a number of years. 2 of them are the best of friends outside of the game and the show. So their natural chemistry bleeds into the show. And then you've just got Ernie, who Ernie to me always kind of felt like the odd man out, but he blends in with the rest of them very, very well.
I've been watching Ernie Johnson in that seat for damn near 35 years.
Right.
Like the 90s, when that show, like when playoff games were on TBS, that's when I remember first seeing Ernie Johnson.
Yes.
So, but yeah, Adam Silver stepped in. They will still broadcast out of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They will maintain the same crew, both on screen and behind the scenes. It will air on ESPN.
Okay. You know what? Then I retract my statement saying that Dirk Blade and Taylor is a mistake, because I thought they were replacing those four.
No.
An additional show.
Yes, they're going to do pre and post game on Amazon when they broadcast games, much like you see with Thursday Night Football, where it's Sherm and Gonzalez and Fitzpatrick, all of them. So that's their NBA team, basically.
I wonder. Ooh, I'm glad you said Fitzpatrick.
But ESPN will still have their regular studio crew, but it's going to. I think they said they're going to simulcast.
I wonder how the ratings are going to work, because, again, the four of them are a known quantity. When I look at these three individuals, individually, each of them are excellent at what they do.
Yes.
I don't know how well they're going to mesh together. That's going to be interesting. It's going to take some time, I think, for them to truly gel and become
they're definitely going to have to find their chemistry and their footing.
Yeah. And again, it's the whole thing of, like, again, with Charles and Shaq, they're real life friends. With Taylor, Blake, and Dirk, are any of them friends? Do they hang out outside? I don't know.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they will once.
I'm hoping that they do, because if you're going to compete with Shaq and Kenny, Ernie, and Chuck, you have to bring your A game, because those knuckleheads. Yeah,
I also understand sometimes you may see Stephen A. Smith on there with them, or you may see Michael Wilbon on with them. So, because those are the top two basketball, insiders. I was going to say insiders, but like basketball gurus as far as the reporting sphere. So those are some of the ESPN personalities you will see sometimes on their show. Maybe not directly in Atlanta, but on air with them.
Yeah.
From whatever ESPN location, happens to be.
But so I want them to do well. I don't mean it to say I don't want them to fail. I want them to do well. I'm a dinosaur. I like what I like. And while I am going to watch them and hope they get better, my number one is going to be Ernie, Chuck, Shaq, and Kenny. Again, it's a known quantity.
I feel you.
But again, I want them to succeed, because I do like all three of these people. I want them to succeed. I want their show to be good. Although the fact that it's going to be on Amazon Prime and not on network TV still continues to piss me off, because none of these sports organizations gives a damn about their fans anymore. All they care about is who can make the most money, you bastards. However, I do want these three individuals to succeed at what they're doing. I just wish it were on regular network TV.
Outside of your local sports team, you're not going to get that.
Nope.
Sports has grown, whether we like it or not. Those two sports, the NFL and the NBA, have grown into global popularity. They're no longer just U.S. centric sports. I mean, basketball in and of itself is just a global sport, period. Because you get a ball, you find a playground, you shoot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The NFL is bleeding out globally because there used to be preseason games all over the world way back when. We've been scheduling regular season games in London and Germany for like the last decade.
But those are at least on regular network TV. I don't need an extra pay service to watch those games.
You would to watch the international series because those are strictly broadcast on NFL Network.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, the London games and the Germany games are strictly NFL Network. Hell, the first game of the second game of the season, which was Eagles and Packers, the night after the Ravens and Chiefs opened the season, from Brazil, was NFL Network.
Okay.
Yeah, international series do not carry on local networks unless your local team is in that game. That's the only way.
That's
because that's the only way you would catch the Falcons.
Okay.
And that's why. Yeah. So if you're watching the Falcons, because we live here in Atlanta, yes, if the Falcons play in Germany or London, you're still going to watch that on whatever local Atlanta broadcast carries Falcons football. But for the Falcon fan who lives in, say, New York, and unless they're playing the Giants, which they weren't, y'all played the Jaguars last time I think y'all were over there.
Yeah.
You need NFL Network.
Yeah. So. Speaking of, what are your thoughts on the Falcons potentially being on Hard Knocks this year?
As long as it ain't my team, I don't care.
Because I saw a list earlier today that had 4 teams that might be on it. And I want to say it was the Falcons, either the Panthers or the Saints. And I forget who the other 2 teams. But I was like, this is going to be interesting because I watch Hard Knocks from time to time, but I don't watch it religiously. This could get me to change.
No team that's ever been on Hard Knocks proper, the regular Hard Knocks show that airs in the preseason, has ever made it to the Super Bowl.
No, I don't want my team on there. No, I don't want them on there.
So I try not to be superstitious, but when it comes to the NFL, I pay attention to damn near everything. No team. Playoffs, yes, some teams have made the playoffs, but no team has ever made. Hell, I don't even think any team has made it to their conference title.
Then again, our defense isn't going to get us anywhere this year, so yeah.
So,
but yes, this will be an interesting trio to see how they work their magic together.
All right, before we get back into football, because we're going to talk about these college playoffs. What was your story or topic for the week?
It was actually since we talked about that, I do have another one that the sexual harassment lawsuits over at Fox.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes, please have at it, sir.
Hold on, I just had the page. I just had it open. But the thing that stuck out is because it's around Skip Bayless and some other. Skip Bayless so far is the biggest name that I've seen in it. There was a hair and makeup person that allegedly he offered her $1.5 million to have sex with him, and she refused. And he said the way the story goes is he said, I could change your entire life for good or for bad, depending on how you answer that question. There are some other names that were mentioned in the lawsuit, but like I said, Skip Bayless was the biggest name mentioned. The hair person, it went on from 2017 until. When did Skip leave? When did Undisputed get canceled?
To my knowledge, it has not yet been canceled.
When did Skip leave Undisputed?
In the middle of this past season.
Okay, so yeah. So allegedly it was going on from 2017 until Skip left the network. But because it alleges that there were other people involved, the attorney for the hair and makeup person who brought the primary suit, they're now trying to convert it into a class action lawsuit on behalf of all the other alleged victims. And I don't know how much money that's going to turn into, because in the article I read, the only dollar amount they mentioned was the dollar amount that allegedly Skip offered to the hair and makeup person to have sex with him. What the suit, the amount of the suit was not mentioned in the article, but I figure if it's against Fox and Skip and it's turning into a class action lawsuit, that's going to be a pretty hefty number that they're going to be asking for.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go on this, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around Joy Taylor's involvement in these allegations and claims. And I think that, like, when I heard Skip Bayless, sexually harass someone and offer them $1.5 million to sleep with them, I like to say I was surprised by that, but I'm not, because it's fucking Skip Bayless.
Right.
And
he's grimy.
And nothing about Skip Bayless says decent, wholesome human being.
Yeah.
Emphasis on the human being, because I think he's a shitty individual. And that's just my 2 cents, based on what I've seen of him on air over the years on both ESPN and Fox Sports.
Yeah.
His opinion, and look, Stephen A may love him to some extent and may stick up for him to a certain point. And I haven't seen Stephen A's rebuttal to or opinion on this yet. I'm pretty sure he's posted something from his podcast that's on YouTube already. But there is no sticking up for this individual, because again, I can't even call him a human being at this point. Again, I've watched Skip berate and dehumanize his colleagues on air in situations where, if those were just guys talking in a bar, a fight would break out based on what Skip Bayless has said to people. So no, it doesn't shock me in any way, shape, or form that he offered the stylist $1.5 million to sleep with him.
Yeah.
That doesn't shock me at all, because that sounds pretty on brand for Skip Bayless, for the shitty individual that he is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I saw, like I said, and the part that's really like jarring, at least to me anyway, is Joy Taylor's name being attached to this and her involvement in these allegations. Because again, like I said, I keep seeing headlines that say Skip Bayless, Joy Taylor, sexual harassment and assault at Fox Sports, lawsuits pending, Those are all the headlines. But when I scan through articles, I don't see any mention of what Joy Taylor has done or what her involvement is.
So here's what it says her involvement is. Okay. Taylor, a Fox Sports host, is accused of insulting Faraji, that's the hairstylist that's bringing the lawsuit, on a personal, professional level, and telling Faraji to get over it when the hairstylist reported alleged sexual harassment by Fox Sports executive Charlie Dixon. Taylor is alleged to have had a sexual relationship with both Dixon and Emmanuel Acho at the same time. When Faraji approached her with concerns about the dynamic, the lawsuit states, Taylor told her that she would simply report Dixon's misconduct to Fox Sports once he was no longer useful to her. Yeah.
So Joy's basically coming off as the enabler.
Unfortunately. And there's also somebody named, I don't know who Bobby Diaz. He's a behind-the-scenes employee at Fox Sports. Okay, he's not on-air talent. But yeah, because the article I'm looking at now has Skip Bayless, Emmanuel Acho, Joy Taylor, Charlie Dixon, and Bobby Diaz.
Well, you already know what I think of Acho anyway, so.
Absolutely. I know. And the thing about Skip that I'll go on a slight tangent. Have you seen the clip of what Chris Carter said about Skip?
No, this would be good, because I'm pretty sure Chris Carter doesn't have a high opinion of Skip anyway.
Skip and Chris Carter got into it, and I think Skip said something to the fact of, that's why you never won a Super Bowl when they were talking something about they were talking about quarterbacks and Florida, big dude, but he should have been a tight end, but he was a quarterback. Tebow. Something about Tebow came up that they were talking about, and Skip was on the tirade about how Tebow was the second coming and this and that.
Yeah,
and Chris Carter made some comment about
Skip loves Tebow.
And Chris Carter made a comment, something about his accuracy or his passer rating or something. And then Skip said, and that's why you don't have a Super Bowl championship. The interview that I saw with Chris Carter, he said when they went to break, Chris Carter took his earpiece off and leaned over to Skip and said, if you ever say something to me like that again, motherfucker, I will come across this desk and beat your ass. Yeah. And Chris Carter said, and that was the last time I was ever on the show.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And I was just like, damn, I would have loved to have seen him go across that table and beat Skip Bayless's ass.
Well, also understand that he had many a fallout with Shannon Sharp when they started Undisputed initially. When Shannon was there, you can find the clip of where they're talking about great players in NFL annals or whatever like that. And I forgot what position group or what particular players they were talking about. But basically, Skip just told Shannon flat out, Tom Brady's a better player than you because he has more rings.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Because there was a point in time where like some of these clips from their show were going viral. And again, this is the type of thing, unfortunately, you'll get this because we both watch wrestling to varying degrees. But you know that any reaction is better than no reaction when it comes to wrestling, right? You're in the ring performing. If they're cheering, that's good. If they're booing, that's good. If they are silent while you are in the ring performing, that is a problem.
Yep. That could be the end of your career.
Same thing with some of these talk shows. If we're talking about what's happening due to viral clips, be them good or bad, that boosts ratings because people will now go over and watch. Well, damn, this is only a 30-second clip of something bigger that happened a month ago. I might go check this show out just to see what happens today.
Yeah.
And you'll watch for the entire 2 hours for maybe 30 seconds to 5 minutes of something that'll be talked about for the next week and a half of a daily talk show.
Yeah.
Right. And that's basically what a lot of those viral clips between Skip and Shannon did. But for some of us who only saw the viral clips, we often just started questioning, like after a couple of years, like one, we were happy Shannon got the bag, got over there on his platform, and it allowed him to start Club Shay Shay, right?
Yeah.
And some people, started watching Club Shay Shay and then migrated over to watching the show on Fox Sports. And then it got to the point to where Shannon needed to leave Fox Sports because Skip is blatantly disrespectful. Because a lot of times the viral clips that were coming out, the talk wasn't, ooh, that was good. Ooh, that was bad. It was, yo, Shannon should leave. That can't, like, Shannon better than me because that couldn't be me. Skip would be dead on air.
Yeah.
That's what the talk started being from a lot of these viral clips.
Yeah.
Skip would be dead. Like, they watch Skip die on live TV if that were me.
But again,
like,
him and his
those were the comments under some of these videos.
Yeah.
So,
but his reckless mouth is good for ratings. It's good for ratings. Because like you just said, if you just see a 30-second clip, you might go check out the show.
Right.
Because there was honestly for a while, I would wonder how much of what we saw of Skip Bayless was actually Skip versus his wrestling persona. Sometimes I actually wondered that.
I would say it was 100% all him. Because I remember, so let's go back even further than his show with Shannon. First Take used to just be him and Stephen A. Smith when it got rebranded as First Take, because it used to be Cold Pizza. I know that title probably means nothing to you, but yes.
No. I remember Cold Pizza.
Cold Pizza evolved into First Take. Same people who started with cold pizza, they would just have random guests on every single day debating topics.
Yeah.
Once Stephen A got there and he started generating ratings with his personality, he became a recurring guest to eventually taking over, and then Skip would be there. And then it basically became a face-off every single day between Skip and Stephen A. And I forgot who the mediator was, because this was before Molly Karam, who's there now. There were many a time that I'm watching this and I'm like, Skip and Stephen A are good for each other, because Stephen A will let Skip's recklessness with the words coming out of his mouth slide for the interest of the show. Now, again, Stephen A on his podcast always says, I know Skip Bayless. I love Skip Bayless. It breaks my heart that he did XYZ that's nefarious or unsavory, whatever it may be. But he always starts that way. I know Skip Bayless. I love Skip Bayless. Fine. That's Stephen A. I go back to what I said earlier. Skip Bayless is a shitty individual. Yeah. And there is no disseminating his on-air persona from who he truly is, because they are the same person.
Fair.
And no one's going to convince me otherwise. And for a person like Skip Bayless, if Stephen A is your character witness, that does not help you in my book. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Because again,
Stephen A is reckless.
Stephen A's whole shtick and spiel, take it or leave it. He's basically a broken clock. He's right twice a day. And some people love to hear what he has to say. And I am of the camp that, I have to pick and parse his thought process and his viewpoints of things, because and again, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with someone. Right. But there are other times when I'm listening to him speak and I'm like, you have completely lost the point, missed the point, ignored the point, or you're just flat out wrong in what you're saying.
But his animated delivery keeps people interested. I really do think one of the things that keeps people, not everybody, but keeps some people interested in Stephen A is whatever the thing is he's talking about, how is he going to talk about the thing?
That's true. Which also sucks, because to be as intelligent and sometimes brilliant as he is, he makes some very asinine statements about topics that he is supposedly an expert on.
Yeah.
Now, again, when it comes to the NBA, he can have that, because he used to be an insider. He worked at the Philadelphia Inquirer. He got to ESPN because he was literally one of the few reporters that Allen Iverson would talk to when he was with Philly. Iverson, at one point, because of how he was portrayed in the media based on his persona and how he looked, was often cast in a negative light.
Yeah.
And when reporters wanted to talk to him to do op-eds or stories or whatever, he would pretty much say no. He talked to Stephen A because he found, I don't want to say kindred spirit, but a person who understood where he grew up, where he came from, his upbringing, his lifestyle, as far as, from an adolescent to a young man, right? Someone who literally could identify because it was similar.
Yeah.
So that's how they bonded. And because Stephen A was the guy that, if something happened with Iverson, it was always, we're bringing in Stephen A. Smith, that, Philadelphia Inquirer. And that's pretty much how his career launched, working in Philly and covering both the Eagles, mostly the Sixers when Iverson was there, but also the Eagles from time to time. Yeah. But that's how he started. Right. So he became the NBA go-to guy when he got to ESPN, before he got on any of the talk shows, whatever. Whenever there was NBA coverage, he was always present, because from Iverson, and a lot of players at the time bonded with Iverson because, again, similar upbringings.
Yeah.
Stephen A was that cat that, if you wanted that exclusive with Kevin Garnett, Stephen A. Smith. If you wanted that exclusive with Melo, or not Melo, Stephon Marbury, Stephen A. Smith. You know what I'm saying? Those players that the media often found it hard to, connect with. And that became a real thing for the late 90s to the early 2000s, because those players did not want to interact with the white male media.
Nope.
As far as covering sports. They didn't, because it's like, I say something and you run with it in the wrong direction.
Yep.
You don't have any reverence for the things that came out. You basically demonize my upbringing. You talk negative about my family who raised me because it wasn't my mom or my dad, type thing. So it was stuff like that would get put out there, and players, because I remember ESPN did a thing around like some between 99, 01, where we were talking about the disconnect between sports media and NBA athletes. I was like, well, one, overwhelming majority of you are white. That's the first problem.
Yep.
And none of you can connect with these players because they're not the clean-cut suit and tie wearing image that you're used to from the Jordan era.
Yep.
Right? Like, even those black players who may have had similar upbringings to like Iverson and whatnot, but they played in Jordan's era, whether it be like, Reggie Miller overlapped or whatever like that, or Scottie Pippen or Karl Malone or David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, whatever. Even if their upbringings were similar to that of Allen Iverson, they still carried themselves in such a way that the white male dominated media could talk to them in such a way. And yes, there's something to be said for how that generation was raised as opposed to Iverson's generation, but times change.
Yeah.
The player then is not the player now. Nope. There is a more self-awareness to say, I'm not going to let you say whatever you want about me anymore. Right. Like back then it was, all right, you wrote your article, now I'm gonna go out here on the court and prove you wrong. Nowadays, and even then with Iverson's generation to today, it's, oh, you wrote this article about me that I feel some type of way about, I'm never speaking to you again.
Yeah.
And fast forward, now it's players speaking their own mind. So now it's like, because of social media and podcasts, they pretty much go on there. Let me tell you how this reporter got me effed up. And they will call reporters out by name, blast them, call them everything but a child of God, and then tell you their side of the story, their truth, if you will, as far as here's the situation, how it's actually happened. If y'all are reading so-and-so's article in this paper, he's dead ass wrong, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's pretty much what we've gotten to. And it's not to say that one way is right or wrong, but this is how this generation operates now.
Yeah.
We normally clown Micah Parsons and what he normally says on his podcast every week during football season. But like literally half the NBA players have a podcast some way, shape, or form. Most notably Draymond Green. Several other players have podcasts and they still operate during the season. It's not like they take time off from their podcast. They still do the podcast during the season. The only time Draymond didn't do a show during the season was when he was suspended. But
which I kind of wondered, I always wondered why he didn't do it during his suspensions.
You know exactly why he didn't do it during his suspension. So I want to get into the college football playoff this year.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, because that's why I put it in the rundown, because this is my topic. Oh my gosh. If ever there were times you would look at and see a group of people get in a room and try to decide the 12 best teams in the country, and this is what it came out with, and you're thinking, what the fuck is this? This is it, because now I'm trying to figure out. So remember, rewind back to this time last year, everyone was up in arms. Why was undefeated Florida State left out of the 14 playoff? Right? Champions of the ACC. And I pointed out that, and again, because the average person who doesn't follow college football and only watches during bowl season doesn't know the ins and outs of what's happening week to week in the sport.
Right.
So I found myself explaining to a lot of people that 3 weeks before the season ended, Florida State's star quarterback, who was highly touted, was definitely going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, broke his leg during a game, right? And badly broke his leg. Like he was going to need surgery, rehab, all the whole nine, right? They played their final 3 games, including their conference championship that they won, with backup quarterbacks. Now, understand, the first backup got hurt at the end of the very first game he played. So their final game of the regular season and their conference championship game, the starting quarterback was the 3rd string quarterback.
Which you never hear this happening.
And they still won both games.
Yeah.
Because that's how good the team was minus him.
All he needed to do was not fuck up.
And he didn't. But at the same time, he did not set the world on fire. Oh,
that wasn't his job. That wasn't his job.
Look who's watching this tonight.
Hey, Joy, what's going on? They need a 90-day limit allowed.
Limit allowed. So the thing I'd explain to people is like the committee watches how these teams play with their backups. They take into account all the things. You're thinking, oh, well, this team's undefeated, they should go. No. So that was one of the biggest, quote, snubs last year when it was just 4 teams.
Yeah.
And on this show, I also explained that the 12-team format was basically canceled before the season started by the commissioner of the ACC. So had they done the 12-team format last year, Florida State definitely would have been in there.
Yeah.
They would have been ranked one of the top 4 teams. But if this is the format, looking at this, what we got is garbage. I'm sorry. It just is. Because the first 4 teams get a bye. Why? Then you basically take what you assume to be the best 4 conference champions and you make them the top 4 teams in this bracket playoff system. But they're not the best 4 teams in the country. So they're not. So I want you to look at the bracket. Seriously, while I'm talking right now, I want you to pull up the bracket of the college playoff. And then on another screen, I want you to pull up the final regular season rankings of the top 25 teams in the country. And notice the gaping disparity between the 2 lists. Because Oregon being number 1, perfectly fine. They were undefeated. They won the Big Ten. They deserve to be number 1. Perfectly okay with that. Georgia being number 2, perfectly okay with that. A 1-loss team, conference champion of the SEC, which oftentimes we say the SEC is the best conference in all of football. 3 and 4 is where you got me lost.
Hold on, 3 and 4.
Because the number 3 team was Boise State. The number 4 team was Arizona State. Boise State won the Mountain West Conference. I'm going to repeat that again. Boise State won the Mountain West Conference, and they were not even ranked as a top 5 team in the country.
No, because Boise State was, they were 9th.
Thank you. The 4th ranked team in the playoff was Arizona State, champions of the Big 12 Conference. Arizona State was ranked 19th or 20th at the end of the season, if I recall correctly.
No, they were 12th.
12th? Okay, sorry.
No, they were 12th.
So why would you make the 12th ranked team in the country the 4th ranked team in your bracket style playoff system?
Okay.
Same thing. Why would you make the 3rd team in your bracket system the 9th ranked team in the country?
Fair question. I'll get fair question.
So I understand you want to include the big conference champions, and all due respect to Boise State, because it's one of my favorite college teams to watch from time to time because of, one, the field they play on and all the trickeration that comes through that university from time to time. The ACC champion this year, I am blanking on which team it was, but they also made the playoff and promptly lost their first game. But the 12 teams were wrong. And I get wanting to include all the conference champions, but you can't do that. When we had a 4-team playoff, we didn't include all the conference champions. We explained why the Pac-12 never made it to a college playoff until last year when Washington finished undefeated. And it was because every time that the Pac-12 champion had a shot to make it, the team we expected to win would lose, thus knocking themselves out of the playoff. And you're thinking, well, they only have 1 loss or they only have 2 losses. Yeah, but they're not a champion. And the team that beat them has 3 or maybe 4 losses, which has happened multiple times with the Pac-12.
Yeah.
There was a year where 2 SEC teams got in and people were trying to figure out why. Well, one was the SEC champion. The other was probably Alabama, because why are you having a playoff without Alabama? And the other 2 teams were some combination of the champions from the Big 12, the ACC, or the Big 10, right? 2 of those 3.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, why not the 3rd champion? Well, because the 3rd champion has 3 losses and a horrible win-loss ratio. Again, the politics of let me just stop there. The politics of college football, because it is literally politics 101 in college football.
This is what I've often said for years. The college football playoff, in my opinion, until it is done similar to how we do college basketball, there's always going to be
and therein lies the problem. So remember, when they do the college basketball selection for the 68 teams that go, there are literally 34 automatic bids.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Of those 34 automatic bids go to conference tournament winners, period. Doesn't matter what your record is. If you win your conference's end of season tournament, you automatically go.
Yeah.
The remaining automatic bids go for the regular season champions of those conferences who may not win their conference tourney. So if you have a year where, say Duke in the ACC, for example, if they go something like 28-5 and they're ranked in the top 10, but they lose somewhere along the way in the ACC tournament, but because they won the regular season ACC championship, they're going. That's an automatic bid. They're going regardless of whether they win this conference tournament or not.
Yeah.
But if you have and I'm sorry to be picking on Florida State because I know their basketball team is probably not that bad. But if you have a Florida State team that finishes 15-18 and they go on a run and win their conference tournament, they're going. Which means another team that was probably on the bubble is not getting in. So maybe the selection committee for the college football playoff try to do something similar with 12 teams. Mm-hmm. But again, take the best 12 teams in the country and just throw them into the bracket, regardless of whether they won their conference championship or not. Would it help if teams did? Yes. But if there's a team you're looking at, say a 1-loss Michigan or Ohio State out of the Big Ten, right? And they get to the conference title game with that 1 loss, but they lose. Now they've got 2 losses. Well, they made it to their conference title game. Still take that team if you had them ranked high enough before that championship game. You don't have to dismiss them because they lost to a team with 3 or 4 losses. Can you give consideration to that team that beat them for that conference title? Yes. Do they have to go? No. And that was a problem with this year because, again, you took Boise State, who, granted, Boise State, I believe, finished the season 11-1 or 12-1.
Okay.
But they won their conference tournament. So because of their record, they slotted them in at number 3.
Right.
That's a problem. Boise State is not the 3rd best team in the country looking at who they played.
To me, to me, that's always going to be difficult because
it's not. Because so here's the thing. The selection, before we finish real quick, the selection committee knows who the best conferences are in the country from top to bottom based on the schools in those conferences. Yes, the SEC is still regarded as the best conference in the country, whether we want to like it or not. They just are. Too much of their talent leaves school and becomes first-round draft picks in the NFL. year in and year out for the last 15 years, right? It just is what it is. So yes, SEC schools probably going to dominate. Now, of course, with NIL happening over the last couple of years, a lot of those cats who were third, fourth on the depth chart and had to wait their turn because a future NFL draft pick was higher than on the depth chart, and they just had to wait their turn so they can shine. They're no longer waiting; they're going to other schools so they can play, and make their get recognized so that they can get drafted just as well instead of like a year after those guys at the same time to prove that they're better than the person ahead of them. So yes, the depth in the SEC is being watered down, but the Big Ten is going to produce top tier teams.
Yeah.
You hope the ACC produces top teams. Everyone's been waiting on Clemson to return to dominance, but that's not going to happen. And then the Big 12 just petered out this year because the best teams in the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma, left to join the SEC.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, we don't. No.
I was very surprised to see them get beat by Notre Dame. To be honest, I was.
And therein lies the second problem. So your top four teams.
Surprised.
Your top four teams, when they played their first games, all got beat. All of them got beat by teams seeded 5 through 8.
Yeah.
5 beat 4, 6 beat 3, 7 beat 2, and 8 beat 1. And 3 of these 4 games were not close.
But see, if I hear where you're not necessarily where you're, if I hear the direction you're going in, I don't necessarily agree that means that those teams are better overall. They were better that day.
Oh no. I want go pull up the score, find the bracket. It'll have the scores of the games.
And yes, Bloodography, you did miss the Falcons talk. I had my rant at the very top of the podcast.
We'll swing back to it at the end. But so here's the thing. The number 1 team in the country, Oregon, got boat raced by the number 8 team in the bracket, Ohio State, because that happened to be the quarterfinal matchup. Final score of that game was 41-21. That's right. Yeah. How does the number 1 team in the country, both in your bracket and by ranking, get destroyed by a team you put as 8th? Why? Because Ohio State had no business being ranked 8th in that playoff.
Nah, I'm done with them till August.
So again, I'm looking at the teams that were ranked 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if I recall correctly, those would be Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State. I don't remember the exact order of how they were ranked in that bracket. But those 4 teams had no business being ranked that low. You can make a case that 2 of those teams should have been ranked 3 or 4 over Boise State and Arizona State.
But to me, herein lies the problem, is the fact that
it's a flawed system.
And I don't think you'll ever get 100% agreement as to the ranking.
Probably not, but you can do it in such a way that, okay, yes, we recognize this team won their conference championship. Like, for instance, in the case of Boise State and Arizona State, we can recognize they won, but they don't need to be ranked in the top 4. Rank them somewhere between 5 and 8, or rank them somewhere between 9 and 12.
I hear what you're saying, but you're always going to have a contingency of people
Let them be upset.
Like, if you won your conference championship, yada, yada, yada. You will never get away from that.
Okay, and that's fine. If you won your conference championship, should you be in? Sure. Automatic bid if you win your conference championship. That does not mean you automatically get ranked in the top 4, though.
Okay.
Now, again, if you say you win your conference championship, you get a home game, because this is how the first round of that playoff worked. The teams ranked 5, 6, 7, and 8 hosted home games, not bowl games, home games at their respective schools for 9 through 12 of who they played, right? Needless to say, they all won. Some of those games were close.
Yeah.
But the home team won. And then the winners of those games went on to bowl games against the top 4 teams. If you win your conference tourney, you can't be ranked no worse than 8th to guarantee you get a home game in the first round. So in the case of Boise State and Arizona State, if they were ranked properly, or in this case, in my example, they would be ranked somewhere between 5, 6, 7, and 8. They would have one of those spots so that they would host in a 9, 10, 11, or 12 in their home stadium.
Okay.
And then they would go to a bowl game against 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on how the bracket works out, right? But I would not automatically put them into a bye situation where they're waiting 3 weeks from their conference championship all the way up to a top 4 spot when they haven't earned it. We know they're not that good. Good enough to win your conference? Yes. Good enough to play with the best teams in the country? No.
So how are you deciding who
Arizona State was a 2-loss conference champion.
Okay.
All right. And at one point, if I recall correctly, before that conference championship game was played, that game was between Arizona State and I want to say Iowa State for the Big 12. Those 2 teams were ranked in the bottom half of the top 25. And by bottom half, I mean like one of those teams was ranked 19th, the other one was ranked 20th.
Right.
When they played. Now, I get it. Winning that conference title and coupled with things that happened in other conference championship games around the country that were played that weekend caused them to rise and some other teams to fall, which is how you said Arizona State was ranked 9th in the country. 12th. Okay. So it caused them to rise basically about 10 spots.
Yeah.
Because that's not what they were going into that game. They were literally ranked 20th going into that game. So you're not going to convince me that a team that was ranked 20th before a game was played is now ranked 12th after winning that conference title game deserves to be, mind you, with 2 losses, because here's the other thing that the committee takes into account. Wins and losses against the best teams in the country.
Fair.
Or against not just your conference, but the teams you play outside your conference.
Right.
So because conferences are so big now, you don't get to play everybody. And for the majority of the season, BYU was the best team in the Big 12. Iowa State and Arizona State never played them during the regular season. And granted, BYU screwed themselves by losing 2 games, which caused them to lose tiebreakers to those 2 teams. That's why I didn't play in that conference title. All I'm saying is the public outcry outside of the fan bases of the teams that made this playoff is going to force them to make changes to this system come the fall of this year.
Well, I mean, it's they're going to have to, because the idea of a college playoff is still relatively new.
No, it's not.
No,
We've had a 14 playoff for over 10 years.
No. Are we that far removed from the bowl game being the deciding factor?
You mean the 1 versus 2 championship?
Yeah.
We are that far removed because the one that triggered the expansion from 2 to 4 was an undefeated LSU playing a 1-loss Alabama team that did not make the SEC title game. And Alabama ended up winning. And I will never forget that. Let's see, Tyrann Mathieu was still at LSU.
Whoa.
And Tyrann Mathieu, who is currently with the New Orleans Saints, is going on year 8 or 9 in the NFL.
It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Oh, it has been that long, sir.
Okay.
But that was the game, because I will never forget the outcry of the people outside of Alabama fans, because Alabama fans rejoice. The committee got it right. We're going to the playoff. The committee got it. That's all they kept saying. The committee got it right. Because here's what happened. Again, you had a Pac-12 conference that basically beat itself up so badly that the champion it produced had multiple losses. Not just 2, but I'm talking about like 3+.
Yeah.
So by the middle of the season, it was already a foregone conclusion. There was no way the Pac-12 champion was going to be ranked number 2. You had a Big Ten champion that was probably Michigan, an ACC champion that could have been any combination of Florida State or Miami or any other team in there at the time, because it was before Clemson came up to rise to power. And then you had a Big 12 that was probably Texas or Oklahoma, right? And going into those weekends with those 3 teams, because, again, regular season, Alabama lost to LSU. That was their one loss. But because of that, Alabama could not play for an SEC title. Everyone knew LSU was going to wax whoever they're going to play in the SEC championship game. They did. That part was done. Check. That's team 1. Team 2 was supposed to be the one-loss team going into the Big Ten championship, the one-loss team going into the ACC championship, or the one-loss team going into the Big 12 championship. You know what happened that weekend? All those one-loss teams who everyone expected to win, to pretty much fight for that number 2 spot, lost. And some of them lost badly. 2 of them lost real bad. One lost a nail biter at the end. The other 2 got their brains beat in. They lost by 14+.
Yeah.
So the committee is now scrambling. Well, who's going to be the second place team? And all the talking heads were like, well, this opens the door for Alabama, but I doubt they take them because they didn't play for the conference title game. And that should count playing. And that was everyone's talking point for the entire weekend afterwards.
Right.
You cannot be selected if you did not at least play for your conference championship. Yes, you have these 2 lost teams out there now that you'd probably rank in a normal circumstance Alabama above them, but they only have 2 losses because they lost their conference championship game. Right. So the case was being made for the team that lost close, not the 2 that got blown out. And that's what all the talking heads were doing on the college sports talk shows. Just take the team that lost the close game and put them against LSU. That would probably be the right thing to do because, again, they played for their conference title.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what the committee do? They picked the one-loss Alabama team. And it was one of the, I won't say worst, but it was a very boring championship game because if I recall correctly, that final score was 12-9. It was all field goals.
Yep, I remember that game because I remember everybody saying, I was like, it was that was a very solid defensive game. I remember that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, that was the LSU squad that had Tyrann Mathieu on their defense. Honey Badger. That's pretty much how he made his name.
For the longest, I did not know his real name.
Tyrann Mathieu. So that was the end of, because again, you're trying to generate interest. You want the casual fans to tune in and watch. Because yes, you do have rabid fan bases, but if the average person who's like, oh, college football, I want to watch this game, and they see that and they're trying to scratch their head, wait, Alabama didn't play for the SEC title? Why are there 2 SEC teams playing for the national championship? Why is this a thing that's happening? That's what forced that 1 versus 2 system.
Wait, do you think the average fan actually knows that, though, that they didn't play for the SEC championship?
Yes. Because I will say this, college championships, conference championship games are marketed as the biggest game of those respective conferences every November. Yeah.
You're right.
So they would have seen LSU beat whoever was on the other side of the SEC, because that would be SEC East versus West, and LSU won Western Division. Eastern Division could have been Georgia or somebody else or whatever.
Yeah.
Florida, whatever it could have been.
Florida back in those days, yeah.
Right. So they would have seen that and then tune in a month later, January 1st or 2nd, watching the national championship and like, why is Georgia here when they didn't play? I know LSU played in the SEC title. Georgia didn't. Why are they here? So yeah, that was a very big deal. So, but that's that. Like I said, all I know is there are going to be changes.
Yeah.
In the fall, because
it's going to take them a while to get it right.
Oh my gosh, you're not going to get this right. Because again, I maintain, regardless of winning your conference title, rank the top 4 teams as the top 4 teams. The conference champions do not need to get automatic, like your quote best 4 conference title champions do not need to get automatic bids 1 through 4. They don't need that. Again, I have no problem with Oregon. They were undefeated. I have no problem with Georgia. They won the SEC. But your 3 and 4 teams, Boise State and Arizona State, problem. They shouldn't have been there. If anything, make them 5 and 6. Make them play that first round. Now they can play at their home stadiums, on their own campuses and host a game against 11 and 12. I'm perfectly okay with that. And if they happen to win those games to advance to play one of the top 4, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But they don't need an automatic, top 4 slot because they won their conference championship. That's not a thing that needs to happen. So, final thing, the NFL playoffs start this weekend. We've got Bills and Broncos. Huh?
Playoffs?
Yeah, playoffs. I know this might be a little sore for you, but there are playoffs that are happening because some teams managed to handle business and make this 14-team tournament. The Chiefs and the Broncos are your top seeds in each conference. They will not be playing this weekend, but Saturday is Ravens and Steelers is a night game. The day game is Houston and the Chargers. Sunday is the Bills and the Broncos, Eagles and Packers, and then Commanders and Buccaneers. Monday night, Vikings and Rams.
I don't know who I'm going to root for in that Ravens Steelers game. I don't. Because on the one hand, you've got the team that I've kind of always said that Baltimore is my alternate team from the Falcons. Mm-hmm. And then on the other team, you've got the 2 quarterbacks that my team should have taken.
Make a decision, sir. Stop waffling. There are currently 6. Is it 6? 6 coaching vacancies right now. And 1 giant kerfluffle. So you've got the Saints, the Bears, and the Jets who fired their coaches during the season.
Yep.
On Sunday, the Patriots fired their coach immediately after the game. On Monday, the Jaguars fired their coach. And yesterday, the Raiders fired their coach. So those
I'm
are
actually kind of surprised that the Jaguars coach is just now getting fired. I'm very surprised at that.
Well, speculation was he was going to get fired last year, but they figured let's give him 1 more season because, let's put it this way. You win a Super Bowl, you get the benefit of the doubt.
Right, but they haven't. How long has the coach who just got fired from Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence been an item?
Doug Peterson, you mean? How long was he coaching in Jacksonville?
Yeah.
This was his 3rd season. Because the first year they won the division, went to the playoffs. They had that comeback win against the Chargers. Mm-hmm. And everyone thought, well, this is a step in the right direction. Last year, they finished with the same 9-8 record, but missed the playoffs. And this year, they completely fell off the cliff. Part of that was due to Trevor Lawrence getting hurt and being knocked out for the rest of the season. But the team was not. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, let's be realistic, though. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been, in my personal opinion, he hasn't lived up to the hype.
Fair. But he's getting a pass because his rookie season, he was coached by Urban Meyer, which everyone realized way too late. That was a clusterfuck of a decision.
Yeah.
And we found out Urban Meyer was also a shitty person as well.
SEC people have known that for decades, though. That's nothing new.
Speaking of SEC and Urban Meyer, the documentary on Florida on Netflix is something that you should probably check out.
Okay.
I can't remember. I think it's Gator Boys, I believe is what it's called.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a documentary about the University of Florida football team during the era of Tim Tebow and sorry for bringing his name up, Aaron Hernandez, because he was on that team.
Bother me any?
Not you. It may trigger some people, but he was on that team as well.
You know what? That is very fair. That is very fair. That is very fair.
He was on, but those are some of the named players who were on that team, as well as some others. And those who were willing to talk spoke about Cam Newton was a freshman on that team. So I'm not sure if they talked to him, but I think it's called Gator Boys. It's on Netflix. If it's not, I just look up University of Florida football Netflix. That's what the documentary is.
Untold Swamp Kings?
Swamp Kings. Sorry.
Okay.
Swamp Kings. Yes. But yeah,
check it out. Start the episode. I need Netflix to fix this. When I click on the thing, don't start the episode. Take me to the page that lists all the episodes and the descriptions, but don't start the thing to playing.
No, start the thing because you definitely want to see it.
Right, but I don't know. I want to see the listing. I hate when they do that. But yeah, Untold, and it's called Swamp Things. Okay.
Swamp Kings. Yeah, okay, so yeah, highly recommend that. If you're a fan of college football in general, check that out. Check it out. In closing, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Fire Rich McKay.
Wow. Okay, so we're back on that. You did say you were going to bring it up again, and you did.
You gave me the opportunity. Fire Rich McKay. I mean, because that's the thing that still cracks me up. Of all of the cleaning out that organization has done, why is he still there?
I don't know. As an Eagle fan, I'm happy that the Giants did not fire their general manager and head coach because it allows me to clown them more often.
But I'm just saying, but you have to admit, if you are cleaning house, what's so special?
Well, here's the thing. Rich McKay is responsible for the acquisition of your young, talented roster on offense.
Is he though?
He is the one who helmed the player personnel decisions to draft Bijan, Drake, and who's your tight end? And Michael Pitts, Kyle Pitts.
So you're giving him more credit over that than Fontenot?
I mean, wasn't McKay? What's Fontenot's role?
He's the GM.
What's McKay's role?
Rich McKay is vice president of the organization.
Oh, well, I mean, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty sure he has some say-so in those player personnel moves as well.
But again, he's left over from spiky-haired boy who I always wanted him gone. I can't think of his name right now because I'm just so glad he's gone. But at any rate, sorry, no, we're rehashing old shit. Fire Rich McKay. That's my thing. Fire Rich McKay.
Well, even if he's not doing anything, what negative influence do you think he has on the team?
I don't know, but I look at it this way. Arthur Blank is not a football person. So somebody is in his ear telling him this is a good idea. That's a bad idea. This is a good idea. That's a bad. Somebody is in his ear. And if you look at over the organization over the last 15 years, the one person who's consistent is Rich McKay.
McKay is a football name. So, going all the way back to his grandfather coaching the first year of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So
I hear you, but it's also like I say about Belichick. Belichick without Tom Brady is as average a coach as you can get.
Fair enough.
I personally would not want Belichick without Brady. Because again, when Brady left, he went and won another Super Bowl. Belichick has fallen off into obscurity.
No, he's the new head coach at the University of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Apparently, since Tom Brady is now a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, he has already thrown out there that they should interview Bill Belichick.
Wow. I'm just saying, when you look at Belichick's record minus the Tom Brady years,
I know it's
winning percentage is about 50.
Yeah, it's 500. I'm aware.
So yeah, but yeah, I don't mean to rehash old stuff. I'll just say fire Rich McKay, and that's my final. I'm done with it.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got some Facebook groups that I go yell in from time to time, but I'm good.
Well, in the craziest thing that I can't make up, because it seems like it really looks like you didn't dump me, I broke up with you type thing, is Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh my goodness.
So again, remember I said Chicago was one of those teams that had a vacancy.
Yep.
The current until the 14th, well, actually as of today with a exclusion period. So Mike McCarthy until today was the Dallas head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He has an exclusive negotiating period in which only the Dallas Cowboys can negotiate with him for a new contract, because this is the final year of his contract. He did not re-up before the year started.
Mm-hmm.
So after the 14th, he is free to talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But between now and the 14th, a team needs to get permission from Dallas to speak to him.
Right.
The Chicago Bears on Monday reached out to Dallas to ask permission to talk to Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking no big deal. Well, on Sunday, before any of this happened, after the Cowboys lost to Washington, Jerry Jones held court in the lobby of his owner suite, like he normally does after every Dallas home game. Talked to the media, and someone asked him about Mike McCarthy possibly going somewhere else to coach. And Jerry Jones's answer was something to the effect of, well, if he wants to, he should do that. If he wants to leave, leave. I don't want to hold anybody here who doesn't want to be here. We gave that same opportunity to Ezekiel Elliott. We let him go. And that was his stance on that. That's not what you say when you want to hold on to a head coach, right? Okay. So while you're thinking logically about this, also remember that Jerry Jones is not a logical individual
at all.
So that happened Sunday. And I said Monday that Chicago reached out to talk to McCarthy, but hadn't heard anything back. Well, today, the Dallas Cowboys released a statement because it made the rounds on all the talk shows covering football yesterday. And they denied the Chicago Bears permission to talk to Mike McCarthy.
I'm not surprised.
So wait, you kick your dude out the door, tell him, go ahead, talk to that other girl. When the other girl come looking for him, you're like, nah, you can't talk to him. And now everyone's trying to think logically and saying, well, obviously he's going to get a new contract.
No, probably not.
Remember, I said this was Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, and nothing they do is logical.
He's just going to make it more difficult for him. That's all.
So if he ends up with another contract, cool. Congratulations, Mike McCarthy. If he don't, I won't be surprised, because this is on par with Jerry Jones running Dallas Cowboys, which I am here for. I want Jerry Jones and his 80-some-odd-year-old self to hold on for as long as possible and continue to be the owner, president of operations, CEO, and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't ever want anything to happen to Jerry Jones. I want him to stay right there running that franchise. Jerry
Jones honestly makes the off-the-field side of football quite interesting. He really does.
I know, and it's two wins I can count on every year right now.
Right. But no, I have a feeling if McCarthy gets another contract, it's not going to be until after the 14th when other teams don't need Dallas's permission, because Jerry's just going to be like, no, you can't talk to him. No, I'm not giving him a new contract, but you can't talk to him.
Right. So that's the last thing I wanted to mention about the NFL. I do want to show this one last thing before we get out of here because this was hilarious. And yes, Joy, if you're still watching, I stole this from your feed on Threads.
Oh, goodness.
So this is in Japan.
Yep.
And these baseball players' wives ended up on the jumbo screens dancing like this. And their teammates are kind of clowning like, is that your wife? Now he was like, nope, I'm not sticking around for this. I'm going to the dugout. Look at the confusion on his face.
I know. He's like, woman, what are you doing?
Oh, man. Well, that is our show for the evening. What did you think about that?
Oh, that was hilarious. That was hilarious. I'd see. I have a feeling if I were a professional athlete and my wife started doing that, I'd probably be in the dugout dancing with her.
Yeah, because you're nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I'm a known quantity. You know what you know. You know what you get with me.
That is true. Very much true. Get well, Qiana and Candaysee. I'm sorry you got stuck at work. We
got to pay them bills.
Look forward to having you both back next month. We are going to get out of here for the evening because, as usual, we have run overtime with just the two of us. It's very easy to do when we're having a good time. So
absolutely.
Until next month's edition of Geek Speak on Sports, we are out of here. Say good night, Furious.
Good night.
Good night, all.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom, clapped back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.